She was born into a world most people could only dream of. Amara Johnson, the only daughter of billionaire Richard Johnson. Her life was a fairy tale wrapped in silk. The mansion she lived in stretched wide like a palace. Chauffeurs opened car doors for her. Designers sent her clothes for free, and her name alone could open any door. Amara had beauty, wealth, influence, and what seemed like an unshakable future. But life has a way of tearing down even the strongest walls. And in Amara's case, it happened all at once. At 17, Amara was the center of attention everywhere she went. At her high school, whispers followed her down the hallway. Girls envied her style, and boys admired her confidence. On weekends, her friends crowded the Johnson mansion poolside, sipping sodas in designer swimsuits, taking endless pictures for social media. Amara was used to this world. The attention, the admiration, even the fake smiles. But there was one place where she was always just Amara. At the breakfast table with her parents. Her father, Richard Johnson, often teased her. "One day, young lady, you'll have to sit in my office and run Johnson Enterprises." Amara would laugh, rolling her eyes. "Daddy, I don't know the first thing about running a company. That's your world, not mine." Her father would only smile. Life doesn't always give us what we want. Sometimes it demands what we're made of. She never knew how true those words would become. It was a stormy Friday night. The rain hammered against the mansion windows as Amara's parents prepared for a gala. Her mother kissed her forehead, promising to be back before midnight. Amara stayed behind, curled up on the couch, scrolling through her phone, texting her friends about weekend plans. Hours passed. Midnight came. The mansion grew quiet. And then, the phone rang. The housekeeper answered first, her face draining of color. She whispered, "Amara, you need to take this." On the other end of the line, a voice she didn't recognize spoke words that ripped her world apart. "There's been an accident. A car crash. Your parents. They didn't make it." The phone slipped from her hands. The world tilted. Amara rushed to the hospital, her clothes soaked in rain. But it was too late. Two covered bodies lay on cold metal tables. In one night, she lost her mother, her father, her protectors. The funeral was filled with expensive suits, crocodile tears, and whispered conversations. Relatives she had never met before clutched her hands with sympathy in public. And then, behind closed doors, argued about her father's will. Johnson Enterprises, her father's empire, suddenly became the prize everyone wanted. Business rivals spread rumors in the media. The heiress is too young, too fragile, too foolish to run such a company. At the mansion, Amara began to notice changes. Her so-called friends stopped visiting. No more phone calls, no more parties. It was as if her wealth had died with her parents. One night, she overheard a conversation between two of her relatives. "She's just a child. She won't last a month. Johnson Enterprises will be ours." It was then she realized. She wasn't just grieving. She was at war. Amara tried to step into her father's world. She attended her first board meeting, dressed in a sleek black suit that made her look older than her 17 years. But the room was filled with mocking eyes. One of the executives leaned back in his chair and smirked. "Miss Johnson, perhaps it's best you step aside. Running a company isn't a tea party." Laughter echoed around the table. Amara's face burned with humiliation, but her voice didn't waver. "This company is my father's legacy, and I will protect it, no matter what it takes." They didn't take her seriously, but Amara meant every word. Weeks turned into months. Amara's nights were filled with tears. She would walk through the mansion halls, emptier than ever, until one day she wandered into the gardens. There, she saw him, Elijah, the gardener. He was different. He didn't bow nervously or speak to her like she was royalty. He simply looked up from the roses he was trimming and said, "Morning, Miss Amara. Want to help?" Confused, she stared at him. Help? She had never touched dirt in her life. But something about his calmness drew her in. She knelt, awkwardly holding the clippers. And for the first time in months, she smiled. That day turned into many. Elijah became her quiet escape. With him, she wasn't the heiress or the girl fighting vultures. She was just Amara. And then there was Maya, her father's loyal assistant. Unlike the friends who abandoned her, Maya stayed. She taught Amara how to read contracts, how to spot lies in boardroom smiles. Slowly, Amara built a small circle of people she could trust. But the war was far from over. Her cousin forged documents to claim company shares. A trusted board member secretly sold information to rivals. And one night, Amara discovered plans to dismantle Johnson Enterprises piece by piece. She broke down, sobbing in the empty halls. "I can't do this. I can't fight them all." Elijah found her in the garden, tears streaming down her face. He took her hands, rough and calloused against her softness. "The soil only gives back what you put into it. You've been planted deep in pain, Amara. But if you keep fighting, you'll rise stronger than ever." His words lit a fire inside her. Amara stopped being the grieving daughter and became the fighter her father always knew she could be. She studied day and night, learning the ruthless world of business. With Maya's guidance, she sharpened her mind. With Elijah's quiet strength, she steadied her heart. The next time she entered a boardroom, the room fell silent. She was no longer the trembling girl they once mocked. She exposed corruption. She called out betrayals. She brought evidence that turned the tables on those who plotted against her. And in the climax of her battle, standing in a courtroom filled with enemies, she defeated them all. The judge declared in her favor. Johnson Enterprises was hers again. The vultures scattered. In the end, Amara learned something she never expected. Wealth can be stolen. Power can be challenged. Friends can vanish. But true riches? They live in loyalty, in love, in the courage to rise when the world tries to break you. Amara Johnson lost everything. And yet, she conquered it all. She was still the rich girl. But now she was something more. She was the girl who turned pain into power and built an empire of the heart.